kick off this series with the focus upon banking fraud and identity theft and protecting your personal information, protecting your identity. So I want to kind of provide just a thorough overview with you this evening, and be glad to address any questions that you may have as we move forward. We'll start out with kind of an overview, and bank fraud is apparent, it is happening, and it does not it is limitless. It does not matter where you're located, what time of day in which that it can occur. Last year, consumers reported losing over $10 million to fraud, which was a 14% increase over the previous year, with the most common methods being due to fraudulent bank transfers, cryptocurrency. And as a result of this information and as a result of the increase within these instances, the Federal Trade Commission has created a Consumer Sentinel Network, which serves as a database that receives reports directly from consumers as well as from state and federal and other local agencies, just in the relation to being able to fight fraud. And last year alone, the Sentinel agency received 5.4 million reports, just with over 1 million which were associated with identity theft alone. As you can see from the presentation, this can happen via phone, via social media, via email, via wire transfer, cryptocurrency, your peer-to-peer transfers, 2.6 million fraud reports, 10 billion in funding has been lost in relation to fraud instances, and these numbers continue to be on the rise. There are 5 common types of bank fraud, and these span between check fraud, peer-to-peer payment scams, which is scams that would incorporate Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, those type of platforms, ATM skimming, phishing, as well as wire transfer scams. So I want to provide an overview relative to these 5 common types, and then how that we can work to combat these type of instances and better protect ourselves. So the first, in relation to check fraud, this includes creating fake checks. This includes check washing, which is defined as replacing the original information on a check with new information. Check kiting, which is the writing of a check for an amount that is greater than what would be in a consumer's account, and then depositing that check into an alternate account at another institution. And then, of course, there's forgery. And forgery, of course, is associated with the signing and the using of a check without someone's permission. In 2022, financial institutions issued 680,000 reports of check fraud. That was nearly double that of calendar year 2021. Checks present a very low-tech, a very easy way, a very easy crime in which to administer. One of the most apparent forms of check fraud today is what we refer to as washing. Individuals and crime networks they swipe check information, they wash that information. Basically, they just remove the ink from the check, and then they replace that with new information. And this can be done through common household items, for example, nail polish remover. And I have seen this firsthand. I can report my parents, in fact, were victims of this type of check fraud. And I can tell you that this is a sophisticated system. Completely, they will retain the consumer's information, the check information, but they completely wash that check clean, and then they replace that with being made payable to a new recipient, a new entity, a brand new amount, and then they can basically take this information and they sell it on the black market to where it can be used time and time and time again. So each time that you write or you issue a physical check to another entity, you are providing that recipient with your name, your contact information, your account number, your bank, your routing and transit number, your signature in addition to that. So we have to be very vigilant that we work to mitigate and fight against this type of fraud because it is real. In relation to investigating suspicious checks or events of this type of fraud, make sure that if you receive a check that you suspect to be fraudulent, contact your bank first and foremost. Contact the bank in which that the check has been written, because you do want to make sure that it is a legitimate check. It has been legitimately provided by an accurate entity, and that it is true, and that it is able for you to be able to for it to be processed. There are also overpayment scams, and this is where this involves the writer of the check issuing a check for an amount greater than what may be necessary in relation to the purpose of the check. So it's making an overpayment, and then it's asking the recipient to send them back the extra amount. And then, of course, there are those prize frauds and those prize scams that whereby some fraudsters may try to convince you that you want a prize, that you need to send them funds to cover the processing of those costs. Just remember, never write a check to someone that you believe is suspicious. And most importantly, what to do, how to mitigate and how to work against these instances. Notify your financial institution, file a police report, file a report with the Federal Trade Commission. If and when you do write a check, make sure that you use a pen that has permanent ink. That way it is less likely to be able to be washed. Be very vigilant in monitoring and balancing your checking accounts. Being very alert to any type of transaction that may appear that you're just not quite familiar with or just looks a little odd. It pays to review your information, to review it on a timely basis, and to question, because an ounce of prevention gives you a world of peace. And of course, whenever possible, switch to secure electronic payment methods. Of course, we know it's difficult to try to embrace technology. However, there are times that technology is our friend, and this is an example when technology can work to our benefit. As we look at peer-to-peer payment scams, peer-to-peer is a very common way to split transactions, to split checks if you're out eating with your friends, if you need to repay your friends, or if you're paying for goods or services. It's something that millions of Americans across the nation, we do every day. These type of services can be provided through PayPal, through Zelle, through Cash App, through Venmo. You can see PayPal is one of the most popular apps. 57% of adults across the nation use PayPal. 54% of Hispanic Americans opt to utilize Zelle as their preferred payment service. Black Americans prefer to use the Cash App. And then 61% of male users opt to use Venmo, while 39% of those that are female opt to use Venmo. But each of these represent probably the top 4 P2P systems that we have. And this is each of these are platforms that fraudsters will work to utilize to their benefit. And this is whereby they can pretend to be a representative of our bank or another agency. They may be asking you to send money. Also oftentimes on social media, we may, online yard sales, for example, send money back and forth. And that's kind of the common way of replacing that type of marketplace. But you have to be very careful. Number one, that you know the individual that you're paying for the services, and that you understand the risk associated with sending money through those electronic means. 70% of Americans utilize peer-to-peer payments for birthday gifts. 64% utilize these services for holiday gifts, and 52% use these services just to simply repay a friend. 13% of Americans, however, have been victimized through this type of payment platform. And the Federal Trade Commission has received almost 50,000 reports of fraud through September of last year alone in relation to Zelle, PayPal, Venmo. And so you can see the increase is on the rise and the need for us to be vigilant in working to counteract this type of fraud just becomes more apparent. And these type of transactions and these type of scams are expected to increase to a total of 2.3 trillion by 2026. The average loss associated with a scam of this type is at almost just shy of $200. And most often these funds cannot be recovered. So it's very important that you keep that in mind. You're very mindful of that, and that you be proactive as you work just to verify if and when you use these services. Know who you're sending money to. Verify all of the details. Regularly update your apps for security enhancements, making sure that you've downloaded the most recent information and the most recent security protocols in which to help to protect yourself. And just be sure that you never provide sensitive details in relation to your account. Make sure that you verify if and when that your account information is being questioned and who the source of the communication is from. And then, of course, we have ATM skimming. And this is the practice of installing hidden recording devices on not only ATM machines, but other payment terminals that we may utilize, whether we're at the mall, whether we are at the grocery store, for making everyday purchases. We just have to be very careful that you are observant of the terminal that you're using, the appearance of that terminal, and just kind of the security of that terminal alone. Skimming costs financial institutions more than $1 billion every year. 2 years ago, in 2022, there were over 161,000 cards that were compromised just due to skimming activity. And again, this is not just your standalone, your bank ATM, but this is your gas stations, your convenience stores, other merchant outlets. And this is whereby recording devices are installed. They are with the intent to compromise your account numbers and to also compromise your PIN numbers. And so always inspect the terminal. Make sure that you review the appearance to make sure everything is intact. It appears just as it should have been installed. Anytime that you question the appearance, make sure that you pose a question, whether if there's a clerk that's monitoring the terminal, if you're in the drive-through at the bank, walk over to the main office and make sure that you kind of bring this to someone's attention if and when you do observe something that just looks out of the ordinary. If your card number itself is retrieved, it's common to use this information in online marketplaces. They sell your card number, they sell batch numbers, and then this information, again, it can be used and reused and sold and resold, just to where it's just a continuous cycle. Make sure that the appearance, you look for those plastic overlays, anything that just does not look as if it in a manner that it would have came from the manufacturer. Because fraudsters can install tiny cameras that are placed on the ATM underneath the keypad, which can record your keystrokes. In some cases, these devices are as sophisticated as having Bluetooth enabled capability. And even chip cards, which we feel are the most protective service in relation to an ATM card or a debit card. Those systems continue to be somewhat vulnerable as well. So just guard your activity, make sure you're observant of your surroundings, and just be vigilant in those regards. Steps that we can take from a precaution standpoint is, again, make sure that you regularly review your account information. Make sure that you monitor your account balances. Make sure that you verify your transaction information. I know that for our institution, we have a system that's referred to as Mobi Money. I have the capability, I can turn my debit card on and off at my discretion. If I have account alerts set up as well. So if I receive an odd alert, or an alert for a transaction that I realize I did not initiate, then I go ahead and I turn that debit card off immediately. And then the next morning, or at the most convenient time, that I report that to my institution, and I bring that to my bank's attention. And of course, often our financial institutions, we have fraud departments that are proactive, and they recognize when transactions are out of the norm, and they will actually notify you in advance if there is suspicious activity as well. So just make sure that you monitor that information. Again, we use technology as our friend. Most banks and other financial institutions have mobile apps that you have, and so just make sure that you monitor your apps and monitor your activity. If you are at Walmart, or if you are at another large retailer and you need cash back, rather than going through the ATM, if you are at the checkout terminal, use the cash back feature. Run that as a credit card transaction. That way you do not have to enter a PIN number. So that's another way that you can be proactive in these regards. And then again, report any inaccuracy or any unauthorized transaction to your bank immediately. Bring that to someone's attention, so that as your financial institution, then we can be proactive and we can provide an expedient response in order to protect your information. And then as we focus on cybercrime, and as we focus upon electronic transactions, there is that of what's known as phishing. And phishing lures a victim with legitimate looking emails. They coax individuals into providing confidential information. Fraudsters and those individuals whom are utilizing this means in which to obtain your information, they focus upon instituting fear, curiosity, a sense of urgency. They work to force you or compel you to open attachments or to provide information that you maybe not otherwise would, but however, just in the sense of urgency or within the event that is being described to you, it's focused upon getting you to release that information and be a little bit more open to believing that the instance is realistic. It only takes one successful phishing attack to compromise a network, to compromise your account information, to compromise your personal information. So as you are online, whether you're making transactions online, whether you are responding to email, whether you are conducting business, just be vigilant and be aware and think before you click. Review those email messages. I know within our institution, our IT staff, they are constantly sending reminders and examples of what is legitimate versus how close that a fraudulent email message can appear to be legitimate. So just make sure that you just practice protecting yourself. And personal phishing risks, money can be stolen from your bank account. Fraudulent charges can be made on your credit card. You can lose access to your photos, to your videos, to your personal records or files. And through phishing attacks, your social media presence can be impersonated. It can be compromised. I mean, it happens very, very often that someone can take your information and they can create a brand new profile, and someone whom is not aware can easily think that that's you and be compelled into providing additional information. At work or in the business corporate world, loss of corporate funds, Files can be locked, files can be made inaccessible, corporate data can be compromised, reputational damage, and reputational damage, whether it be in the corporate world or whether it even be to a personal standpoint, that can be very, very costly. So just a reminder, be very, very cautious and be aware, not to scare you, but just be aware. And as we look at phishing, the different types of phishing, there's the email phishing that I've just described, which has deceptive reasons and a deceptive basis. And this is where the criminal has the intent, they have the goal of obtaining your personal and your sensitive information. Trap phishing is a result of security vulnerabilities. So this is basically largely based upon the mistakes that either yourself or your company has made by having some weak areas just in their IT management. So whether it's your phone, whether it's your PC, or whether you are in the corporate world, just make sure that you keep your security updated and make sure that you're using the most up-to-date versions of software, because therefore that way the most up-to-date security protocols can be incorporated. Spear phishing targets a specific group or a type of person. For example, the system administrator, or the lead system admin, or individuals whom carry roles, senior level roles in relation to an organization. Angel phishing. This specifically uses social media to target on prey. This utilizes fake URLs, cloned websites, etc. It is amazing how that this information can be taken and it can be impersonated, and how sophisticated that the appearance of these cloned websites can become, social media pages. So therefore, again, just be sure that you're communicating with the individual or the entity that you intend to. Whaling. Now, these are the big fish. These are our company CEOs, our chief financial officers, your C-suite personnel, your presidents. These big fish, they are often targeted because they have reputable names. They have a presence in our communities, and they also may have a large presence on social media or online, and so they're big targets. And so that's another form of phishing. And so just need to be cautious. If you're privileged enough to serve in a role of that capacity, just make sure that you protect your reputation and make sure that you protect yourself and that you're as vigilant as anyone else may be. Voice phishing. This is an attack that is accomplished through a voice message and mimicking another individual's voice, even the language that maybe you may often use, terminology that you may often use. It's so easy for, with the technology that's available today, to utilize this type of vishing. And then as we look at text messaging, we go from vishing to smishing. And smishing utilizes SMS messaging for these type of cyber attacks, and therefore, you know how often that we all may receive these just junk text messages. Again, be careful with who you share your number with, and because it only takes one time, and then you're lured in for what may seem to be eternity. And then we have pharming, and this is the hijacking of a user's browser settings to reflect suspicious pop-ups, asking the user to click a specific link or download malicious code, and then that code then can be executed on the victim's device, whether that be your personal device or whether that be a corporate device. However, this is when your personal information, your corporate data can be compromised, and it can be hijacked, and it can be held then for a ransom And even in instances where a ransom has been paid, that does not provide the full assurance that you're going to be able to recover the data that's been lost. So this is great information that we all need to recognize and just be familiar with. And then as we look at phishing and as we look at working to counteract being lured into this type of fraud, how can we protect ourselves? And again, you strengthen your passwords. A 12-character password is the most recommended. Avoid using common words, common phrases, common names that could be familiar not only to yourself, but to a family member, or to an entity, an association, a group that you may be affiliated with. Always avoid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, of course. Always avoid your initials. So really take the time to create a password that protects you and strengthens the protection of your devices. If you've given someone remote access to your PC, make sure that you run a scan and that you ensure that after the remote access has been given, number one, verify that they have exited your PC, run a scan to make sure there's not been any type of security breach, and remove any type of software that could have been installed while the remote access was being held. Often in cases, just from a corporate standpoint, I know with software vendors, we from time to time will have to provide remote access to our software providers if we're working to mitigate an issue. And often in these instances, that individual will have the capability with some type of secondary authentication that is incorporated. So you will be provided not only a link, but there will be an authentication code that will also be incorporated. And that's just a secondary layer that protects you. It also protects that other entity in relation to being able to support that type of remote access and do so in a secure environment. And if a fraudster has taken your mobile phone number, if they've gotten your account information, just make sure that you always contact your service provider so that you can regain access, so that you can change your passwords immediately, and that you can take action in order to help to satisfy or protect yourself from any type of an event that you may believe has happened. In last year alone, 43% of all successful attacks used forms of social engineering. 79% of those attacks were carried out via email, SMS messages, and that's through social networks, that's through messaging apps. So again, be very careful. If you use a messaging app, just verify before you respond, verify before you open the link. This is someone that I know. This is someone whom realistically would be reaching out to me. If you have any type of hesitancy, don't open it and just delete it. Put it in the trash can. That's the best form of protection. And then as we look at wire transfers, wire transfer fraud, it's also a federal crime. And we see it every day. We have to be vigilant within the banking sector, even as we are working to transact business, whether that be on behalf of our customers, whether that be on behalf of transactions that we're working to facilitate for customers. Fraud, though, it's a multi-billion-dollar problem, and this, of course, this is a scheme with the intent to defraud another person or another party by the means of electronic communication. And always be cautious before sending money via a wire. If you're ever asked by the government, by a friend, a business associate, or a relative, always verify. Always make a separate call, confirm the information that you've been supplied is accurate, confirm both the individual whom has requested the funds as well as the recipient that has requested the funds. Scammers will pressure consumers to wire money because it's easy and it's very easy for those funds to disappear. And it's even more difficult for us to try to recover those funds. So if you're wiring funds through services as MoneyGram, Western Union, that type, you may not be able to get it back. So it's always extremely, extremely important that you verify that information, and always know if you receive a call from someone who says they are from the IRS or from another government agency, they will not contact you by phone. It is a scam. Most often the IRS will only communicate via letter in writing. So be very aware of that. Make a phone call. As we all have access to online information and contact information, make sure that you verify whom you're receiving communication from. And common wire transfer scams, those include family emergency scams, dating app scams. Never wire funds to someone that you've not met in person. And again, never wire any funds to anyone who claims to be from the IRS, from the Social Security Administration. Oftentimes I know that elderly individuals are prey to this type of family emergency. They may receive a phone call and it may appear that they have a relative, a child, a grandchild whom may state that they've been in an accident or they've been arrested and they're needing funds. Just, again, be aware. And also, make those individuals whom maybe just a little more vulnerable, make sure that they're aware of these type of scams. Again, share this information, make them aware, and make them be just cognizant of that these type of scams happen and how they can protect themselves. And then as we have discussed the different types of scams, the different types of fraud, this all leads into the information of the importance of protecting our identity. Identity theft. And it is very, very difficult. If your information has been compromised, it is so very difficult to try to rectify and to regain your reputation, whether that be from your personal information, from your financial information. Guard that with your life. This occurs when someone, when they gain access and access to your Social Security number, your credit card numbers, they've done so, of course, without your permission. The Federal Trade Commission, they estimate that as many as 9 million Americans have their identity stolen every year. This can impact your credit rating. This can impact your employment status. This can impact your capability to receive credit. This impacts your capability of being able to open new accounts at financial institutions, your insurance, the cost that you pay for insurance. All of this information can impact almost every area of your life. So protect it with your life. My most recommendation is review your credit report information. We each have the capability. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. You can do so one time per year, and you can receive a complimentary copy of your credit report from each of the 3 credit bureaus. Review that information, review it in detail. Ensure that the accounts that are open, that you have been the party in which has initiated those accounts. Make sure that the names of the financial institutions you are familiar with, and anything that looks out of the ordinary that you do not remember opening or having any type of communication with, make sure that you initiate a fraud alert and that you initiate that you question that information. Signs, often the warning signs of identity theft: bills that you may receive for items that you did not purchase, debt collection calls for accounts that you did not open. Again, information that's been reflective on your credit report that you were not aware of. You may receive adverse action notices in the mail for loan applications that you did not initiate. If your mail stops coming to you, or if mail begins to be missing from your mailbox, These are all warning signs. The U.S. Postal Service actually has a service that is now available to each consumer to where that you can receive a notification of the mail that you should be expecting to be delivered to your home. This is a great way for you to monitor okay, I know what I'm expecting, but you can also verify the information by what you've actually received in your mailbox. And this could be just as simple as not just for fraud purposes, but oftentimes our mail might be placed in the neighbor's mailbox. You know, if it was not in yours, you can go looking for it, or you can at least report it to your local postal service and say, hey, I've signed up for this service. I've been notified. I've been expecting this type of communication. I never received it. Can you please check with my mail carrier? Or is there a way that we could track this information, or just walk next door? I mean, that's also a good opportunity for you to get to know your neighbors a little bit better, and they get to know you. So, and that helps build trust. Guarding against identity theft. Again, reviewing your bank accounts, signing up for account alerts, having the capability to control the access to your debit cards, receiving notifications. And as I speak about account alerts, this is in relation to you can maximize the amount of alerts that you wish to receive. Those can be as minimal or to the maximum amount as you would like to experience, whether that be a deposit, whether that be the checks that clear your account, whether that be a notification that your balance has reached a certain level. Just that way you can be a little bit more alert to the activity in your account and review your bank statements. As I had made a statement that my parents were the victim of check washing, that's how my father became aware. He was reviewing his monthly statement. He noticed I didn't approve these transactions. And in this event, I didn't mention this earlier, but this is very, very important. It's not only that they can create a fake check and they can wash your check, but when they have your routing and transit number, when they have your account number, they can go online and they can schedule payments to other entities. And this can be to the tune of $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 and up. So just keep that top of mind and make sure that you review your information and that you keep a very close eye. We all work very, very hard for the funds that we have and for the income that we earn and for the possessions that we've been blessed to have. And so God expects for us to protect that information. And that includes our identity, and that includes the blessings of this life. So he expects us to be responsible in those regards as well. Make sure that you close any account that you believe has been tampered with. Notify your local bank. Make sure you make that phone call. Bring your bank representatives to the attention that you believe your account's been compromised. And then, because it's much easier for us to work with you early on than it is after this transpires and a duration of time passes by, it's so much easier for us to be alert and be attentive and be responsive. We will also work with you to file a police report, and we will also work with you and provide information on how that you can report instances of identity theft through the Credit Bureau and through the Federal Trade Commission. So make sure that you just follow these steps, and that protects you. Again, don't carry your Social Security card. I know in years past, that was kind of the common theme, was that we needed to be able to prove that we were who we say we are. But in today's world, leave your Social Security card at home in a very safe place, or put it in a safety deposit box. Don't ever pre-print your Social Security number or your driver's license number or your contact information on your checks. And sign up for direct deposit. Utilize electronic services to whereby it kind of reduces the number of checks that you are required to have to write. And then also, as you go through your mail, and as we go through our junk mail, also be aware that there are also dumpster divers out there who wants to go through our junk mail, and they want to use every opportunity to obtain information that they could use against us or in a fraudulent manner. So use a shredder, or make sure that you tear your envelopes up just to the T. Don't just toss them in the mail, but protect yourself. And I have provided for you the contact information for the Federal Trade Commission, both via website and the 800 number. And with that, I'll be glad to address any questions that you all may have.